Cool. So, Rafał, welcome to Byte Action. Yeah, nice to see you again. I know we had a catch up last week, which was really useful. So, it gave me some additional insights into what you guys doing. So, yeah, good to see you again. How's your week been?
Thank you, man. It was amazing, actually. I'm based in Spain, and it's very warm, very good weather to enjoy the sea right now. I've been snorkeling for the past week, which is
That's
a
nice.
new hobby that I picked up. Yes.
That's nice.
But before we move any further, I would like to thank you very much for having me here. I feel like when we've talked for the first time, I felt that it will be a lot of fun to be your guest, and thank you for having me again.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. I went snorkeling last week actually as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I went, so my family came over, so went for a few days to Costa Brava, which was really nice. I don't know if you've ever been to this part. I know you live down south, but if you ever come over, it's definitely worth
Thank you.
going there as well. Is it very warm in the south of Spain nowadays? Because it's getting quite warm in Barcelona.
It's a little bit too warm for my taste.
Yeah.
Which is where this is the reason why I'm about to depart to Poland, which is my original birthplace. So I'm about to spend the summer there. It's a little bit more chilly, but at the same time, the beauty of the environment of Poland is just flourishing right now. So I'm gonna evade or avoid the heats over here and just enjoy my place.
Well, Poland is great in summer. I mean, I'm from Lithuania as well, so I go there in summer as well for a month or so usually, because it's the best time to go, and you can really enjoy, and it doesn't get as hot, which is
seems like we are living very similar lifestyles.
Yeah, for sure. Is this your first summer in Spain, or how long you lived?
No, I'm on and off in Spain, trying to enjoy. Especially the coldest months here in Spain, because gives a lot of energy for action. Having the opportunity to go out and just walk and refresh your mind with in the sun, even if it's like December, January, or February, it's a game changer for whoever is working. You avoid this kind of a winter depression that we all Eastern Europeans are very familiar with. So that's a really nice thing to do. And I've experienced summer in Spain last year, and what I said before, that it's not really in my liking. It comes exactly from this experience. It's a little bit too hot for me. It's a little bit actually nothing really happens since 12 till 8 p.m. Everything is closed, and the sun is so intense that it's actually boring. People are just stuck in the houses, so it kind of you have to shift the mentality to start living after 8 p.m. I'm sure you're familiar with that as well, but it requires a shift in your mentality and shift in your lifestyle. And if you are an early bird, morning person, and the summer comes, suddenly you have to become a night owl, because there's no other way.
Yeah. No, totally. I guess in Barcelona, it doesn't get as hot, so the life still sort of functions. But there's certainly these couple of hours in the afternoon where, I don't know, let's say you want to run some errands, and then you want to go to a certain place or a shop, and it would be closed because people are on the beach or whatever.
Yeah.
enjoying their afternoon. So it's quite different. Nice. So look, maybe we can start with, can you introduce yourself to us, to everyone? What's your background? What do you do? What are you working on nowadays?
Sure. Let me start. Okay. My name is Rafał Bieniek, and I'm a co-founder and CEO of Metashift Labs. That will be a third startup with my name as a founder, followed by Fera Games, mobile game studio that focused on idle and hybrid casual games, and Inkdat, which was an app for tattoo studios. I'm in a game development for almost 12 years now. Wow. I've started my career as a linguistic game tester, slowly climbing the ladder through functional QA, community manager, game designer, lead designer in really amazing companies such as Qlog, Artifex Mundi, Game Desire, and Stripper Games.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, all that experience and possibility to closely watch specialists, managers, and executives, and maybe a little bit of courage has resulted in me starting my own studio, which I'm doing right now.
And what's the experience been like in starting your own studio? Like, what were the hurdles? I don't know. Like, what was the thing that made you take this step of starting your own company?
This is a really interesting question. I think that everything that I've learned in a companies, working in a bigger companies, and seeing how the free-to-play model operates, and once you are in a position when you are actually working not only on a project but also on a monetization of the projects, it ultimately leads you to running not only the design part but also the monetization, which is like the economy of the company itself, especially if the company is based on one big title. And then at some points you kind of realize, okay, if I know the finances, I know the design, it's a very short way, to starting something on your own, because right now you've got all the tools and all the knowledge how to at least try on your own. And that ultimately led me to starting my first project that I did after hours with my dear friend Krzysztof. And we've been doing that project after hours for quite some time. I think it was around 7-8 months. And for us, we're lucky. We're lucky and blessed because the release of a game resulted in a very nice organic traffic on Google Play, especially back then. And the game was released during pandemic, which also played a little bit of a role in there because everybody was stuck in home playing games. And the fact that we have chosen a very niche, but a topic that really touched some markets, some hearts, resulted in a game getting attention and getting a little bit of virality. And by doing that, we quickly realized that the money started flowing, and at some point we had to ask ourselves, Chris, do you think we have to quit our jobs? I'm like, yeah, I think so. We have to double down on this 100%. And it has been 4 years since we did that.
It must be an interesting decision to make as well, right? So you're in a position where you obviously have your day jobs, but then you start to see that your kind of side hustle is picking up, and ultimately, you decide to focus on your own thing. I mean, did you ever think when you started it that this is going to be the case? Were you guys kind of working towards it, or was it mostly just a side hustle that sort of picked up, and then you kind of found yourselves in a position where you decided to focus on building a studio from that?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that because on one side of it, I knew how to make games and how to monetize them. But on the other side of things, we just did it as a side hustle, side project, which we wanted to just, out of curiosity. Let's see what happens. Let's try to apply the knowledge that we have. Let's try to apply the technical skills and the design skills that we had, and pretty much let's see what happens. So we pretty much had no expectations to this game. It was mostly about doing something from the scratch till release on our own, just to prove ourselves that we can do it together. It was a 2-people endeavor. And once the game was released, it started to slowly catch the traction and quickly become something that we needed to keep updating. We needed to keep growing the game, And in that moment, I think we realized that it is becoming bigger than we ever expected.
And what were your roles? Sort of, were you mostly responsible for, like, was one of you mostly responsible for like programming, the other person doing design and production? What was your focus?
So my friend Chris, who is a co-founder of the company, both Metashift Labs and Fera Games, he's a programmer who used to work in banking and loved video games. We actually met in video game back when we were 18. We played Lineage 2, a really hardcore MMORPG. And we met there, and for the first 5 years, we didn't even see each other's faces. But the connection we have established, through, I think back then we still used TeamSpeak. The Discord still wasn't a thing. and we quickly become a really, really good friends. And we kind of always knew that we want to do something together because he was a really, really good programmer with a gigantic passion for games and grinding. He's still one of the best players you could see, you could find, and I always had this thing for design, for balancing, for correcting how the games should look like. I always had a bunch of ideas how to improve games, starting from board games to video games. I always had this feeling inside that, oh, I could do this. When I was younger, I could do this. I know how to make it better. And I did for quite some time. I was playing a lot with board games, like changing the rules of the games. My friends were coming to me for the play session of, I remember we were playing Talisman, a board game, and I would jump with a new set of character sheets. It's like, okay, guys, these elves, dwarves, they are very underrated. I have changed the design of these characters. We are playing now with these new rules. And they were like, oh my God, you did it again, And yeah, I think there was something that was inside of us for a long, long time. And we just let it out, express ourselves in a way.
Okay. So you released the game. The game is doing really well. You decide that you want to focus on this full time. At one point did you hire people afterwards, and maybe at one point you decide like, okay, maybe we can start working on something else. Like, what was the shift where you transitioned maybe from focusing just on one game to deciding let's build a company out of it?
Okay, so that's 3 questions. I think I'm going to start with the employees part first. I think we hired the first employee before we even released the game. Like the moment we started to do interface and graphics on our own, like literally we opened up Photoshop or GIMP and we tried to learn, because both me and Chris, we like to learn. We like to acquire new skills. But the moment we started to do that, we were like, no, we are not doing that. This is hell for us. And so we're like, okay, it's I think in that moment shift in mindset started, that okay, it's better to just hire people and pay them for the job that they are doing, even for the small project like ours back then. So we started to hire first contractors to do the work for us, and it was an ongoing process back and forth. So we used to hire artists, UI artists. Back then, AI wasn't a thing. So you had to you could translate the game on your own, but you still needed someone who would localize it properly for different languages. So we would hire people from all around the world to do that for us. So it was an ongoing process, which I don't think we even realized how it was growing. But the first full-time employees, I think we hired them few months. I don't think it was few months after the release. Yeah, it was a graphic artist, then a community manager, and then we hired someone who would take care of ads, a promotion of the game. I think we grew to at the point where we were the biggest, it was 8 people.
Okay. Did you ever partner up with a publisher, or you were thinking of partnering up with a publisher?
Yeah, that's a funny question, because at first we wanted to do everything on our own. We were kind of convinced that we have the capacity and the ability to do that, which from the time perspective, I think it was a big mistake, because when our first game was on a high rise, we were receiving multiple offers from the publishers. They wanted to publish it for us, but back then we wanted to keep it smaller, maybe wanted to do stuff on our own, keep the whole control of the game in our own hands, which I think was a mistake, because with time, we were relying on organic traffic for such a long time that when the organic stopped being so favorable, I think we overslept the moment where we could actually transfer very seamlessly to the user acquisition model, which we could have probably learned way more if you would start working with a publisher before. Of course, we did that later. We started to work with publishers, and that resulted also with us learning how to very rapidly prototype new games. We used to do this very fast process of prototyping a game in 2 weeks, releasing it, checking the metrics of user acquisition campaigns, seeing how it goes, how it works. And if it didn't, which in most cases it doesn't, you would just move on to the next project. And that also was a really, really nice lesson for us to not only good games, but also to create them fast and in a very competitive environment.
So it's interesting. I mean, I went to a Pocket Gamer conference in Barcelona the other week, and I was listening to a talk from a design lead from Madbox gaming studio, and he was talking about exactly the same thing, that like his favorite thing to do being a designer is failing fast and failing as much as possible with the games, with the game releases, until you actually find that hidden gem, that game that actually works and that players like, and you can actually start focusing on.
Yeah, but that also has its downside. You know, when you are working with a big publisher, their expectations for scale are much bigger than you would have in your own small studio. So some projects that you would consider a small win for them is not enough. So um, this is a lesson that you learn after quite some time, that some games with a small publishers might be successful, and if you are counting for a small win to get your studio going, for example, or maybe you are trying to find a first confirmation that you can actually build stuff like this, especially for young studios. I think pairing up with really gigantic publishers could be a blessing, but could also be a trap.
What's the alternative? Is it going like investor route? Is it something that you guys maybe explored as well?
Yeah. Uh, right now, we are exactly going into this route. The Metashift Labs is a new endeavor that we started recently. We decided to shift our focus from just mobile games to something bigger, to cross-platform game, which we are currently working on. So right now, we are in a fundraising mode, and we are building a new company, which we want to build in a completely different way, something that is new for us. Luckily, with the lessons that we learned, we are surrounding ourselves and connecting with people who actually know better. And right now, we have a third co-founder on a board who is a successful business person who comes from game design. He used to work with me. His name is Wojtek, and right now he's leading our fundraising round, and that makes things different and very exciting.
Okay. I mean, going the investor route sort of gives you a lot more autonomy, I would think, doing the thing that you wanna, doing making the game that you wanna make. Like, am I right to say that?
Yeah. I would think so, but at the same time, ultimately, the game that you need to make is dictated by the market and the
Sure,
market needs. So,
of course.
and I think investors, they know that, and they follow the market trends as well. So ultimately, publishers and investors are kind of looking for the same things. But yeah, of course, going an investor route, you would have more control over your company primarily. And yes, publishers would very often, at least the ones that we used to work with, would actually engage in an ideation process, which is not happening here. Because to go to the investor route, you kind of have to have a really, really nice idea that is validated against the market, which makes sense business-wise, design-wise, and technical-wise. And that's just a kind of different approach. Publishers, I think they can help you out with finding the right trajectory if it comes to the game design. And I think investors would help you out with the trajectory if it comes to the business side more.
Do you need to have just an idea, or do you already need to have like a working prototype that you're able to show, especially nowadays when the market is a little bit harder to enter? You know, if you're seeking funding, no, I guess if you compare it to like a few years ago, no.
That's really cool that you ask, because that's something that we actually are doing right now.
Mm.
So we are building a completely different type of a game. We are trying to establish a new genre on a market. So let me ask you a question, Thomas. Do you know how difficult it is to balance work and family life with a passion for games in your adulthood?
No, it's very difficult.
Yeah,
It's
so
very difficult.
we figured out this hard way when we were trying to connect with our friends and establish like a party of five, and finding the right time during the week, it's almost impossible. And there's always someone who, be busy with probably more important stuff. So we are creating this new project for ARPG and MMO ex-veterans who quit gaming. Guys aged 35 plus who don't have time to play, but still have a passion for progression and challenge. And this is a game where your hero runs autonomously, crafts, grinds, fights, and quests, even when your device is turned off. And thanks to the implemented AI, you can connect with your character even from your phone, from anywhere, even when you are like walking or spending time with your family, to give him commands, modify how he acts, and what the hero should focus on in the open world. So this is what we are doing right now. and we are trying to tackle the problem of time constraint in a SaaS way. Like usually the game studios they are trying to find a cool project for gamers. Our approach is a little bit different. We are trying to tackle a real problem and solve it by introducing a new kind of a genre, which we for now call auto grinders.
Okay, well that's really interesting. Is it just mobile game, or is it cross-platform game, or
Yeah,
is it
because the game is mostly run autonomously. So the heroes, they fight autonomously. The controls are not a big of a problem. So the game has all the technical fundamentals to make it a cross-platform. So we are planning on a PC version, mobile version following, and then maybe even a browser. Because there's no constraints if it comes to the technical side. We are thinking about it very, very in a very open environment.
Well, it sounds really interesting. I mean, something I'd for sure like to try and play one day once it's released. Are you playing it just with your friends, or is it sort of like a complete multiplayer, like open world environment? I mean, I'm just trying to. I don't know how much you're able to sort of share about it.
Yeah, I'm going to share with you what is publicly known already.
Yeah.
So our idea is to create an open world where you can actually see all the characters, even if they are offline. So imagine you are currently playing and observing your character, maybe tweaking it up a little bit here and there, like changing some gear, crafting some new stuff, and playing with your skills and abilities, and letting it autonomously grind. And you observe the results of your changes. And let's say I'm currently spending time with my girlfriend, and you can be grinding some werewolves in a forest, for example, and you could see my character going there. You can meet my character there. So what we want to create this this system, this world in which the characters are, contrary to idle games where the away progress is calculated by math. They are actually constantly running on the servers, persistent servers. So that creates the kind of a connection between a player and its character. Like you could do your own stuff in your own time, like being busy with your work, with your chores, or maybe spending time with your family. But deep down, or maybe in the back of your head, you know that your character keeps grinding. It's there. So there's this connection, and because it works like this, we thought to ourselves, why not allow the players to connect with other players, which might be very cool. Imagine you being a tank in a typical MMORPG scenario, and I'm a healer. We can group up, set our characters so they coordinate very well, maybe invite other friends to our party, and just leave them be. Set off and go on about our lives, and log in maybe in 10 hours and see what happened, like see all the progression that they made.
But so how do the characters decide how they're going to behave? Like, how do they make their decisions in the game? Like, how do you create a system like that?
So we are building this big panel, which is called Dominus panel, which allows you to configure how the characters behave in combat, which is pretty much the basics of our game. Meaning that it not only allows you to set the auto combat, but you can actually set all the conditions for your abilities and skills. Let's say you meet an orc who is a guy with a big sword, and you want your character to keep a distance from this orc. You want to use a ranged weapon, and you want to wait till the orc has used his ability, maybe to cast a specific spell in that very moment. And the panel, which we have, allows you to do exactly so. You can choose all the conditions for your skills, for the movement of your characters, for the conditions for the spells, or maybe even when the character has to wait for the specific thing to happen. So it saves the skill for this specific moment. And by that, we want to create an environment in which we both have the same characters level 90, but they act completely differently because of the way that we set them up. So it's more of a strategic thinking than
Okay, I mean, sounds really interesting. Like very different, I guess, from what's available nowadays in the market. So, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to try it.
Thank you very much.
It sounds really exciting. Just to shift back the conversation a little bit. So we were talking about you building a business and you building the studio. The first game development studio you guys built was called Thera Games. Does that still
Fera Games.
exist, or is that became Metashift Labs, or like what's the connection, I guess, between?
Yeah, Fera Games still exists. We still got the games well and running. However, we have shifted our focus to something different, and we are starting this new endeavor called Metashift Labs. And until Fera Games is profitable, we'll keep operating that, but that is no longer our primary focus.
Got it. Understood. And with Thera Games, do you guys do you just create mostly your own IPs, or do you do outsourcing as well, or?
We used to do both. The successful games that we have are our own IPs. One of them is Idle Ocean Cleaner, a game about cleaning the oceans from the plastics. This is the first game that I mentioned today in the podcast.
Sure.
The one that people really, really loved. And the other game we created was called Space Exocolony. It's about this cute alien race that colonizes planets in the cosmos.
Okay.
But saying that, we have also worked with the publishers, and we used to do games that are currently being held by them.
Okay, understood. So, just in terms of thinking about potentially like other people that want to create their own companies or their own studios, just to kind of round this up, like what would your advice be maybe to them? Let's say they just starting up, they want to create their own project, their own game. What would your advice be, whether they should go the investor route or the publisher route, or they maybe try and be successful on their own in today's market? What do you think would be the best approach?
I'm going to focus on investor route because this is what I'm focused on right now. I think my advice would be which actually comes from the experience that I have from mobile, is to validate your ideas as soon as possible. This is what we did with Metashift Labs with our project Dominus Automa. We have created a prototype in 3 months, which is pretty unusual for a PC market. Usually the companies are building in a stealth mode and then maybe releasing a little bit of information half a year before their release, to create a hype. For me, this route is a pretty dangerous route to get, not only for your time, for your own resources, but also for investor resources, because you kind of know, you hope for the best. So my advice would be to really quickly validate your ideas. So what we did with Dominus Automa, with this prototype that we had created in 3 months, we actually created videos, trailers, ads, and we have released the simple post on Reddit, just with the simple screenshots and descriptions. The prototype is made on an asset spot from Unity Store, and it looks decently. Some people even told us that, I like the graphics, but I'm like, okay. But the post, it went viral. It connected. Gathered like over 70,000 views. Over 200 people joined our Discord. And that gave us this additional energy and confirmation that we are actually onto something that people really want, And I think it's crucial not only from the investor perspective, because that's also like an asset that you can use, and also something that you can share with the investors, like a proof of concept that you are doing something nice. But most importantly, that's something that makes you believe in your own project. Making games is hard. Making games is a lot about ups and downs. And, sometimes you're going to think that your game is the best game in the world. Sometimes you're going to, cry in your pillow thinking, this game is worthless. That's a very usual thing for game designers. But checking with with actual audience, with your players, is something that eliminates this problem from the get-go, and you are on a good track. So don't be afraid of showing even the piece of the development that you did. Don't be afraid of sharing the idea. Nobody's going to steal it, by the way. And just confirm it and make sure that you are doing something that people really want. That's going to make you feel happy and make you feel energized to keep going.
That's great advice. I think that's great advice across a number of different fields, just to test out the idea first, to try and engage the community. I also remember I spoke to somebody else on this podcast, and we were talking about what makes a game successful, or what can make a game successful. And we're having a conversation about either finding like a small niche where you can make success, that don't make generic games or don't make generic content that everybody else makes. Either find your niche and like create something unique within that niche, or even better, like create your own niche, something that's not been done before. So I think what you guys doing with this game is sort of relates to that. as well?
Yeah,
Because
I think I actually been thinking about this a lot the past weeks, and I very much agree with you. You know, if you want to do something that everybody else is doing, let's look at the AAA studios. You know, like they are stuck in their own constraints. You know, building games that people love, and they are playing very secure, very riskless business. Let's look at the Ubisoft. You know, continuing the Assassin's Creed franchise.
yeah,
And this is pretty much the game with a little innovation each year that they introduce, but they have to compete with the newest graphics. They have to look the best. They have to look and they have to feel the crispiest, and it takes a lot of work because you are competing with other games that are kind of similar, and you have to have something that will differentiate your game. So if you are doing something that everybody else is doing, you are stepping into the red ocean of fighting for the attention with the best graphics or best gameplay. And the moment you start doing something niche, something innovative and new, players are they love that. You know, they love trying new things, and if you hit the right spot, your game doesn't have to look the best, your game doesn't have to work the best. Players are way more forgiving if it comes to bugs, because you are bringing something new. And if you start building with players, like I'm talking building a community on a Discord and actively listening to the players feedback, that's a really nice way to success.
how early should one start building a community, and what is the best way to start doing that? I mean, obviously you mentioned your Reddit example, which is amazing that you managed to get 200 people on your Discord channel just out of that. Like, at what point should one start doing that? Maybe you can talk about your personal experience from like
Yeah.
previous projects that you worked on the
If you would
Korean
ask me a couple months ago, I didn't know how to answer. I would say as soon as possible. But right now, I didn't even know it's possible to gather a community over a prototype of a game. And supposedly, and apparently it is. So I'm gonna stick to the answer as soon as possible. As soon as there is something that might hype up the people, as soon as there is something that you can show, and yeah, build a community as soon as possible because it works in your favor on many layers.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally, I agree. I mean, it's just so important, and these people that I guess you're able to attract and talk about your game from the very early beginnings, they're gonna be your biggest fans and like the foundation of the success of your game. And it's so important to listen to their feedback and to build a game for them as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
no,
hopefully,
totally.
man. I love the moments when I'm waking up, entering a Discord, and seeing all the ideas from players. Saying how much they love the concept, and they're like, "I love the concept. It would be cool if you add this, or if you add that, if you
Yeah,
add this." I really cherish those moments, and I really engage in these conversations, especially very early in a building something new, because it's not only you are showing that you are there to listen to the voices, which is a really nice
yeah,
signal for your players, but also it gives you a lot of energy. And sometimes the ideas are really nice, and the players will show you the direction. And sometimes you have this big chunk of ideas that you want to introduce in your game, and listening to players, it will help you out with differentiating which ones are actually the most important for players. It's very hard sometimes to let go of some things. I've got these 10 really cool features in my game, and then time comes and you have to let go something because of, I don't know, time constraints, maybe resources, or maybe different reasons. But the players will actually tell you very early on, I like this idea the most, I like this feature the most, this is what I would engage with. And that is also a very helpful tool if you use it as a developer.
yeah. No, totally. When you look at the games industry nowadays, what are the things that excite you? What are the things that frustrate you? What are the things that, you think can be improved? Just the whole kind of game industry pulse as a whole, with where it's going, with the type of content that gets created, with, how people approach game development nowadays.
So I'm going to start with things that frustrates me the most is, of course, the hard situation on a game development market. And there's so many talented people looking for the positions, looking for a place to call home. And it's heartbreaking sometimes seeing people who could bring a lot of value, are struggling to find a job. Additionally, starting as a new junior game developer, I mean, it's hard right now. The companies are looking for seniors, and there was I think, a decade of hyping up the game development, how cool it is, and many people just wanted to follow that path. And it's hard to enter the market right now, but it's gonna change. The market works in the cycles. I've been there when I was entering game development. There was like 70 people for one position, and I was lucky to get in to start my first game development job. But then I was observing how the trend was raising, and at some point we had a employees market. We could ghost all the offers on LinkedIn, several offers a day, and I think it's going to shift again. So fingers crossed, and to anyone listening, that will be better. What gives me hope about the game industry, and actually what excites me the most, is which might be a little bit of controversial, but with the wild spread of LLMs and AIs, the creative work is actually becoming it's how to call that. It's actually I'm looking for the right word to call it. The use of AI is accelerating the design processes, as stuff that in the past it used to take a lot of time. Right now it can be done much shorter time frames. Mm-hmm. And I see it as a kind of like a reset on the market, which means that, and that also goes for the junior positions and anyone who wants to enter the market, that right now is a very good moment to learn how to prompt correctly, learn how to use those tools to accelerate your work. AI will not replace your jobs. It will accelerate you and improve it. So the ones that will be left behind, they will be simply left behind. Now it's the time to actually embrace the new technology, and with that, you'll get ahead. And which is actually already happening in the game development. You can see that there is a movement against AAA developers. There is a lot of indie game studios rising right now, using all the possible tools to make the games cheaper, more innovative, using the new technologies, using designs that were never seen before. They are actually the innovators in the game industry, and the rise of indie games right now is something very heartwarming. And I love checking out the indie games on Steam, on different websites. Actually, I get way more inspiration from indie games right now than I get from AAA games, which are probably, just reusing the same old tactics that work.
That's the thing. I mean, they might look really good, the new AAA games, but the gameplay and the ideas, they're just so similar in so many cases. And as you said, these smaller studios, they release these games that are like ultra successful, and people like playing them, and people respect the development behind it, and how they came about. So yeah, no,
absolutely.
I totally see that. You mentioned that when you were entering the industry, it was really difficult to get into the industry as well. How did you get in? Like, what was the story of you getting into the industry, or getting your first job?
You know what? There is no golden rule that I can actually share as an advice here. I think it was just a bit of luck and being in the right moment in the right time. I come from a small city. Well, it's not a small city, but it's like a third category city in Poland, called Częstochowa. It's 200,000 people, and not much going on there right now. And one of the big quality assurance and localization companies, they decided to create a branch there. And I was 20 something years old, very early, my early 20s. And I always knew that I want to get into game development. So there was only one thing in my head. Okay, I have to get this job. Luckily that the interview went really smooth for me, and they did give me a test exercise, which was about finding all the errors and mistakes in the tutorial of some game. You have to. They would test your ability to see all these little mistakes there. And I was always, I think I have it from my mom. She was someone who would pay a lot of attention to the grammar, to the orthography, and she would correct me a lot when I would misspoke or miswrite something. And I would start paying a lot of attention to formatting and how things look on the paper. And I think that kind of led to the fact that I did the test task in a way that secured me the job.
Okay. And here you are. I mean, you've had a pretty successful career, and then you started your own studio, and here you are giving advice to other people as well, which is cool. On the AI side of things, what are you guys using in your company at Metashift Labs? How are you implementing AI in your development?
Yeah. Okay. So other than very standard LLM models, which is ChatGPT, Manus, IAM, Google AI Studios, we have this. We are having fun in a company that everyone has his own different favorite LLM, which is actually fun because sometimes when we are researching things, we are like, okay, you search there, you search on ChatGPT, I'm going to search on Google AI Studio, you search on Gemini, you search there, and then we compare results, which is actually something that we started to do lately, and it's given a really nice results. So we are using LLMs for crafting documentations, for crafting polls for the players, stuff that usually is tedious. But the LLMs would kickstart these templates very nicely, and that would save you a lot of time to just polish it and rework it in a way that you want it to look or sound. Obviously, we've got programmers who would support themselves with code written by some LLMs. That's pretty standard practice right now. And for the we are not a big fans of creating art with AI, but we use it to create like templates. Maybe template is not good word, but like a sketch. To mention more, I think one of the things that helps me the most is LLMs that actually are doing research for me. Research is a big part of making business, comparing the competitors or trying to get the data from the market, the statistics. Before, you had to do it manually on Google, bunch of websites, and then compare the data and then go through all the ads that the current internet is spammed with. And separate the articles that were written strictly for the SEO purposes from articles that are, actually giving value. And right now we get this just by a simple couple of prompts, and I love the fact that LLMs, when asked for, they will give you sources so you can actually check them. So it's just making things way more convenient and easier for starting new projects, for even killing the ideas that won't work before you engage with them too hastily.
We touched briefly upon AAA budgets and AAA studios and compare them to the indie development studios. Have you thought about, maybe you have some ideas of future projects that you would like to make? Let's say if you had an infinite pool of money or investment, and what would those be?
You know what? I've heard this question in some podcasts recently, and I actually asked myself this question. What would I do if I would have infinite pool of money? And I think that's actually a problem. I strongly believe that creativity it comes from constraints, from limitations. I have this. I have to limit myself to these particular rules or maybe this particular type of resources, and I need to make something that is that would be the most worthwhile. And if you have unlimited resources, and I've been into this position, working in companies where we had too much time and too much resources to actually come up with some ideas, and it almost never ends up good. There is this saying that if you give a student 2 weeks to make a scientific research, he will do it in 2 weeks, and not less, no more. And if you give someone unlimited time and unlimited resources, then it will just prolong, and the results won't be as good as a couple of people having different constraints, different limitations. And I just think that human brain doesn't work like that. We have to put some limitations on our own thinking sometimes to come up to the conclusions. And I think this is the reason why it feels so good sometimes when you are overwhelmed and every person comes to this conclusion. Okay, I need to cut down on some things. I need to stop adding more things into my life. I need to cut down some things, like remove this, or I stop doing that. And this just feels so good. I feel we are programmed like this.
Yeah, no, you need to find that focus in life. Like sometimes I make to-do lists, every week, and sometimes you have this to-do list that looks like this, and you really need to cut down on some things because otherwise you end up doing nothing. You end up not having a focus on anything. So no, I get it. I agree on that part. And as you said, that's part of the problem, that maybe in the last few years, there have been infinite resources in game development, and companies have invested so much money into the projects that ultimately didn't succeed. And maybe that was the reason.
to say, but definitely, I used to work better with constraints.
What's the recent game that you played that sort of stuck with you and you really enjoyed? Could be an indie game, a mobile game, PC, console.
All right. So yeah, I'm a really hardcore player. You know, I used to escape to games when I was a teenager, and I love games in which you can spend thousands of hours grinding. So my favorite kind of games is forever in my heart Diablo 2 and Lineage 2. These two titles just shaped my entire way of thinking about games. I'm a player that pays a little bit less attention towards story and exploration parts in games. For me, it's more about grinding, building my own character in a way that I want, challenging myself in a different circumstances, and that's a kind of a gamer that I am. I used to play League of Legends for a long time, probably too long. I remember my friends telling me that I am the best at uninstalling League of Legends because I did it so many times. Yeah, at some point I realized I have to just sell my account in order to never come back to this game. And I did. And I think when I calculated how much money I made of this account, I think I was earning like 1 cent per hour. So it is not very much, but it helped me, move on with my life.
I see. So, Diablo 2 is certainly one of those games that I played as well. And yeah, one of the first ones that, really, really inspired me. Although like my the games that I play, they sort of have a more of a wider spectrum, especially like nowadays. I think the recent one I was playing was Prince of Persia. It came out last year in 2024. It came out, and I really love the puzzles and the graphics of the game, and it's just really, really fun to play.
About Diablo 2, I'm still playing. Like
Wow,
even after all
you're
this
still
time.
playing after all this.
Well, no, maybe not still. Of course, I was playing for all the time, but I found this beautiful thing called Project Diablo 2, which is like a modification for the game, and it's redoing everything about the game, and it's just so wonderful that I just got myself into this game again after 25 years from the release, I think. And there's still new, fresh stuff that surprises me. And I'm like, someone asked me, why am I playing this game? And I'm like, I think because I know this game so well that I don't need to focus as much, and I can just watch some YouTube, factual entertainment on
You
YouTube
can
on the
just
other
play
screen.
with your eyes closed.
Yes, that's true.
And is there a game then that's coming out, I don't know, in the next few years that you're looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I'm coming from a huge fan of MMORPGs. I'm waiting for Ashes of Creation. This is a project that is in ongoing development for, I think, more than 8 years. But its promises and the way they handle the development, how they communicate with the players, how they are being very open with what they do, and the story of Steven, who is the founder of the company, is something that I follow. Very excited, and the trailers and whatever they are doing, working with the communities, it's really exciting. How to see the process, how it's evolving, and I want to see the results.
Nice. I'll definitely check it out. And I don't know the game, but yeah, certainly something to look at and check out. And what's the future holding then for Metashift Labs? Like, what are you guys focusing on? What are the next sort of, I don't know, 3 to 5 years or 2 to 3 years? I don't know. What are your projections looking like for the company?
So we are currently fundraising. We are halfway through our first seed round. We are looking for strategic investors and maybe even publishers. That one is still not yet decided. And we are opening up to the public, and currently building the projects, upgrading it day by day, and we are looking forward to see where it gets us. And hopefully in 2.5 years we'll get the game ready to be for a global release, because that's what we think will be necessary. 2.5 years to make a proper game, and all the way up to release. And I hope to maybe join your podcast again in 2.5 years and share where we did.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Let's do that. Let's have a name for that. Last question then for you. Can you think of an advice for somebody who's either just starting up their own gaming studio, or they are just entering the job market in the games industry? Like, what advice would you give them at the start of their career, at the start of the journey? What would be your advice for them?
Yeah. Currently, the experience is one of the the most important factors. And because it's very hard to get an experience as a junior, I think it is especially crucial now to create your own projects. Learn. And my advice would be, I think it's very old advice, but create projects, small projects. Make sure that you worked up all the way from prototyping to the release. It's better to release a very small, simple game than overshoot with something too ambitious. I guarantee you that recruiters and investors, they look favorably for people who can actually deliver stuff rather than people with the greatest ideas or the greatest, something that they cannot prove on paper.
Rafał, so if people wanted to get in touch with you or to find out more about the studio and what you guys do, how should they reach you?
I think you can find me by my name, Rafał Bieniek, on LinkedIn. That's a very simple one. And another one is our company website, which is called metashiftlabs.com.
Well, thanks, Rafał. Thanks for the advice. It's good having you on the show. Really enjoyed speaking to you and learning a bit more about your experience. And it was good. And I hope in 2.5 years we can talk again on this podcast.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It was very nice to be here.